The other narrative of the day is that Elizabeth Warren, as Tonto, is not actually Native American. So she claimed that she was Native American many times. She claimed that she was Native American in legal journals. She claimed that she was Native American in an award that she won from University of Pennsylvania Law School. She claimed that she was Native American in a story that she told over and over and over, a romantic story, a Romeo and Juliet story about her mother, a proud Native American woman wandering the plains who met her father, and her father brought her home. But the in-laws were racist, and said, you can't bring home that Native American woman. You can't bring home that Indian. Get out of here. And then apparently her parents eloped, and they had a beautiful romance from there on in. Well, it turns out that Elizabeth Warren is not, in fact, Native American, but it was funny to watch as the narrative turned yesterday. So yesterday, Elizabeth Warren started this whole thing off by releasing a video of her and her family members talking about how Native American she was. And here was what the video sounded like.
This isn't just about casual racism, war hoops and tomahawk chops. Native communities have faced discrimination, neglect, and violence for generations. And Trump can say whatever he wants about me. But mocking Native Americans or any group in order to try to get at me, that's not what America stands for. Some people have questioned my heritage and my family history. Maybe they do it to insult me. Maybe they do it to distract from the kinds of changes I'm fighting for and the kind of change I'm trying to bring to Washington. Maybe they do it because they think politics is a blood sport. But my parents were real people. The love they shared, the struggles they endured, the family they built, the story they lived will always be etched on my heart. And no one, not even the President of the United States, will ever take it away from me.
The story is etched on her heart. Etched on her heart. And then she goes to all her family members who are talking about their Native American heritage. And then she releases a study. And the study shows that she is maybe, not totally, maybe 1,024th Native American. 1,024th Native American, which is just awesome. It's just awesome in every way. So she releases that, and watch as her tweets evolve over the course of the day. So she starts off by saying this. By the way, a real Donald Trump, remember saying on 7/5, July 5th, that you'd give $1 million to a charity of my choice if my DNA showed Native American ancestry? I remember, and here's the verdict. Please send the check to the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center. Okay, number one, that's not what he said. What he said is, if you prove you're Native American, then I'll give you $1 million. She didn't prove she was Native American. She proved that she is whiter than any person this side of Marky Mark. And then she continued tweeting, but watch how her tweets evolve. NIWRC is a nonprofit working to protect Native women from violence. More than half of all Native women have experienced sexual violence, and the majority of violent crimes against Native Americans are perpetrated by non-natives. Send them your $1 million check, Donald Trump. And then she continues along these lines. I took the test and released the results for anyone who cares to see because I've got nothing to hide. What are you hiding, Donald Trump? Release your tax returns, or the Democratic-led House will do it for you soon enough. Tick-tock, Mr. President. You know, this is one of the most annoying things on Twitter these days, the tick-tock routine. Oh, well, tick-tock, I mean, we're ticking down to something big. Or it turns down, we are ticking down to you completely collapsing in on yourself like a dying star. She continues, and she says, having some memory problems, Donald Trump, should we call for a doctor? Here's something you won't forget, Mr. President. You're the least popular president in modern history, and your allies will go down hard in the midterm elections. 22 days. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Oh, God. Oh, God. And then she concludes, I won't sit quietly for Donald Trump's racism, so I took a test. But DNA and family history has nothing to do with tribal affiliation or citizenship, which is determined only by tribal nations. I respect the distinction and don't list myself as Native in the Senate. Wait, what happened? That was a sudden left turn. It's like when Michael Scott was driving on the road and the GPS told him to drive into the lake. That's basically how that tweet thread went. She's talking about, yeah, I'm Native American and Native Americans are great and give some money to Native Americans. And she's like, but I'm not Native American. What could have happened to trigger such a change? What could have happened to Tonto? What could have changed Elizabeth Warren's mind? What could have changed her mind? She was saying very confidently that she was Native American. That she was Native American. And then all of a sudden, well, it turns out the tribes get to decide who's Native American. Why? Because the Cherokee Nation came out and said, you're not Native American. Now, let's be clear about this. The Cherokee Nation does not come out and make political statements very often, but they sent out their Secretary of State, Chuck Hoskin, to issue a statement. He said, quote, A DNA test is useless to determine tribal citizenship. Current DNA tests do not even distinguish whether a person's ancestors were indigenous to North or South America. Sovereign tribal nations set their own legal requirements for citizenship. And while DNA tests can be used to determine lineage, such as paternity to an individual, it is not evidence for tribal affiliation. And then they continued, using a DNA test to lay claim to any connection to the Cherokee Nation or any tribal nation, even vaguely, is inappropriate and wrong. It makes a mockery out of DNA tests and its legitimate uses, while also dishonoring legitimate tribal governments and their citizens, whose ancestors are well documented and whose heritage is proven. Senator Warren is undermining tribal interests with her continued claims of tribal heritage. Ouch. Ouch. So she just got slammed by the Cherokee Nation, to which she claims ancestral membership. Yeah, that went poorly for Elizabeth Warren, which is why she shifted and said, I'm not claiming that I'm Native American anymore, but I'm kind of Native American, so give me $1 million. Again, I call on the Trump administration, I call on President Trump to personally sign a $900 check to Elizabeth Warren's charity of choice, because she is 1,024th Native American, maybe. He should pay her 1,024th of $1 million. That is the amount to which she is owed. So President Trump was asked about this yesterday, and he basically dismissed all of it.
No, I have no. Who cares? Who cares? I didn't say that. No, I didn't. You better read it again. I hope she's running for president because I think she'd be very easy. I hope that she is running. I do not think she'd be difficult at all. She'll destroy the country. She'll make our country into Venezuela. With that being said, I don't want to say bad things about her because I hope she would be one of the people that would get through the process. It's going to be a long process for the Democrats.
Okay, so President Trump, he's eager to go after Elizabeth Warren. Again, I still think we need the image of him with a Publishers Clearinghouse-sized check, handing it to Elizabeth Warren in order to basically have that image linked with Elizabeth Warren forever. Unfortunately, it seems like he's swiveled and he's less interested in whether Elizabeth Warren has a relationship with Tonto and more interested in whether Stormy Daniels is in fact Silver. Hi, Silver, away. But I want to talk a little bit more about why it's important for Elizabeth Warren to have maintained her Native American ancestry point. What made her think she could get away with this? So let's talk about that. Here's the thing. There's a story that came out September 1st of this year in the Boston Globe, and it discussed a serious issue for Elizabeth Warren. Was Senator Warren actually a professor at Harvard Law because she claimed Native American ancestry? In other words, was she granted special status that sort of gave her an upper hand when it came to her job at University of Pennsylvania or at Harvard Law School? Well, this long article from the Boston Globe, in-depth research, found that folks at Harvard said that her Native American claims had nothing to do with any of that her Native American claims had nothing to do with her actual ability to be granted a professorship at Harvard Law School. They interviewed something like 31 professors, many of whom were on the admissions committee, some of whom I know, people like Charles Freed, who I had for contracts. And he said, no, when we hired her, it had nothing to do with her claiming Native American ancestry. In fact, we didn't even know that at the time. We assumed she was white. And the internal documents suggested that University of Pennsylvania treated her as a white person, and so did Harvard Law School, until it became beneficial for them to claim that she was of minority heritage for purposes of their diversity curriculum, right? They had to claim that they had a certain number of diverse professors, and so they sort of faked it and said that she was Native American. But that doesn't mean she got her job based on Native American claims. So with that said, why didn't Elizabeth Warren, a month and a half ago, simply say, look, I was told by my family members that I had Cherokee ancestry. My mom used to tell me that. My uncles and aunts used to tell me that. And because of that, I simply assumed that they were right. I wasn't going to assume that my relatives were lying to me. Those were the stories that I was told growing up. I guess that was wrong. And so I never should have done any of that stuff. But it didn't have any impact on my actual career trajectory. My career trajectory was going to be great no matter what and had nothing to do with those claims. So I apologize to Native Americans for having taken seriously the stories of my family without checking them. But with that said, to claim that I was a beneficiary of some sort of affirmative action is simply untrue. Right? Why didn't she do that? Well, there are two reasons she didn't do that, and both of them are telling. Reason number one, she figured that she could get away with pretty much anything because the media would cover for her, which the media did yesterday. There were headlines in the Daily Beast saying, Elizabeth Warren proves Native American ancestry. There's a headline over at CNN, Elizabeth Warren provides solid evidence of Native American ancestry. So she legitimately threw out a study that showed she was not Native American and counted on the media to say that the study showed she was actually Native American. And the media complied for the first 12 hours. And then it all began to fall apart because people can read. And we don't live in a world where there are only 3 networks and 3 major newspapers anymore. We live in a world where people can fact check stuff. And that meant that her narrative began to collapse in on her. So she thought she could get away with it because the media would cover for her. And why not? Why wouldn't she think that? I mean, the media have covered for the fact that Beto O'Rourke in Texas, who is being treated as an Obama-esque, Kennedy-esque, new, young figure, that guy was involved in a DUI when he was 26 that involved him crossing over a median line, smashing a truck, and then trying to flee from the scene. And they're still touting him as the big new next Democratic thing. Now, listen, I'm somebody who's had my license suspended for driving too fast. I'm obvious about that. I was not driving drunk, and I didn't crash into anybody. It was on an empty freeway. Beto O'Rourke was driving drunk and hit a guy and then tried to flee the scene while he was drunk. And the media have basically said that's a big nothing. This is the same media that said that George W. Bush's DUI back in the 1970s should have disqualified him in 2000 from running for the presidency like 2 weeks before the election. So Elizabeth Warren had good cause to think that the media were going to cover for her no matter what. If the media covered Democrats the way they cover Republicans, half of the candidates for Congress in this election cycle would be toast. They would be finished. Bob Menendez in New Jersey would be done. He'd be gone. Claire McCaskill in Missouri would be done. Kristen Sinema in Arizona would be just toast. But they are not, because Elizabeth Warren, like every other Democrat, knows that there is a sort of buffer zone that is established for Democratic candidates. And so she can simply claim Native American ancestry without any proof, and the media will continue to cover for her as much as humanly possible, right? And they will just continue to cover for her endlessly.